When you lose, you win. The paradox of letting go. Imagine fighting with all your strength to hold onto something, a dream, a relationship, an identity, only to realize that the harder you grip, the more it slips away. Imagine chasing success, recognition, security, only to find that the pursuit itself leaves you exhausted, hollow, disconnected. Now, picture doing the opposite, letting go, releasing control, surrendering to the flow of life. And suddenly, the very things you were chasing begin to come to you effortlessly. This is the paradox of letting go. It is a truth that defies logic, a secret hidden in plain sight, and one of the most powerful lessons we can learn, not just for success, but for peace, for freedom, for meaning. We live in a world that tells us we must always be striving, always pushing, always controlling every outcome. We are taught that to win, we must fight relentlessly, that to be happy, we must grasp tightly onto the things that bring us joy. But what if this mindset is exactly what keeps us trapped? What if true power comes not from force, but from release? Zen philosophy, along with many of the world's greatest wisdom traditions, teaches us that clinging is a form of suffering. The more we attach ourselves to a specific outcome, the more we fear its loss. The more we define ourselves by what we own, what we achieve, who we are in the eyes of others, the more fragile our happiness becomes. Because everything in life is transient: wealth, relationships, status, even our own identities. And the more we resist this truth, the more we struggle.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
Think about the moments in your life when you felt the most free, the most alive. Were they moments of control or moments of surrender? Were they times when everything went exactly according to plan, or times when you let go of the plan entirely? There is a reason why some of the most profound experiences, love, creativity, enlightenment, only happen when we stop forcing them. Love cannot flourish under control. Creativity cannot thrive when it is pressured. But peace cannot exist in a mind that refuses to release its fears. The more we try to dominate life, the more life resists us. But the moment we let go, the moment we trust, the moment we allow things to unfold naturally, something incredible happens. But letting go is terrifying, isn't it? We fear that if we stop controlling, we will lose everything. That if we stop chasing, we will fall behind. That if we stop grasping, we will have nothing left. But this fear is an illusion. The truth is, letting go does not mean giving up. It does not mean passivity, laziness, or weakness. It is not about abandoning ambition or desire. It is about shifting our relationship to them. It is about moving from a place of force to a place of flow. Instead of gripping tightly to a specific outcome, we learn to trust the process. Instead of defining ourselves by external achievements, we root ourselves in something deeper. Instead of fearing loss, we embrace change as an essential part of life. So I ask you, what are you holding on to so tightly that it is causing you suffering? What would happen if you released your grip, if you trusted, if you allowed life to unfold without resistance? What if, instead of fighting against the current, you learned how to move with it? Because maybe, just maybe, everything you are chasing is already on its way to you if only you would stop running and let it arrive. The illusion of control, why surrender, is the ultimate power. We spend our lives trying to control everything: our careers, our relationships, our emotions, even the way people perceive us. We micromanage details, obsess over outcomes, and live in a constant state of tension, believing that if we just try hard enough, we can force life to go exactly as we want. But here's the truth we don't want to admit: control is an illusion. No matter how much we plan, how much we prepare, how much we try to shape the world to fit our desires, there is always something greater at play, something unpredictable, something uncontrollable. And yet, we resist this truth. we fight against it. We refuse to surrender, convinced that if we let go, everything will fall apart. But what if the opposite is true? What if surrender is not weakness, but the ultimate form of power? Think about the greatest moments of transformation in your life. Were they carefully orchestrated, or did they happen when you least expected them? Did they come from rigid control, or from moments of surrender, moments when you stopped resisting, stopped forcing, stopped trying to manipulate the outcome? The reality is, life moves in ways we cannot predict. The more we try to control it, the more we create resistance. The more we demand certainty, the more we invite suffering. Zen teaches us that true mastery comes not from domination, but from alignment. The river does not fight against the rocks in its path, it flows around them. The tree does not resist the wind, it bends with it. And yet we as humans try to do the opposite. We resist, we fight, we refuse to bend, believing that rigidity is strength. But in the end, the rigid tree is the one that snaps in the storm. The flexible one survives. So why is it so hard to let go? Because we equate surrender with failure. We think that to surrender means to accept defeat, to stop trying, to give up on what we want. But this is not surrender, this is resignation. True surrender is something entirely different. It is not about giving up, but about giving in to the deeper flow of life, to the understanding that we are not separate from the universe, but a part of it. It is about trusting that there is a rhythm, a movement, a natural unfolding to everything. And when we align with this, rather than resisting it, we find a power far greater than control. We find flow. Have you ever noticed that the best things in life seem to happen effortlessly? The best conversations, the best ideas, the best experiences, they don't come from force. They come when we are present, open, and receptive. They come when we are not desperately trying to shape them into something specific, but allowing them to be what they are meant to be. This is why surrender is so powerful. It does not mean passivity. It does not mean inaction. It means acting from a place of trust rather than fear. It means moving with life rather than against it. But here's where it gets even deeper. The more you surrender, the more life starts to work in your favor. Opportunities arise that you could never have planned for. People enter your life at exactly the right moment. The doors open that you didn't even know existed. And it's not because you stopped trying, it's because you stopped forcing. You stopped clinging to a narrow idea of how things should be, and in doing so, you made space for something greater. This is the paradox: the less you try to control, the more control you actually have, not over life itself, but over your experience of it. Because when you surrender, you stop being a victim of circumstances. You stop living in fear of things not going your way. You stop wasting energy on battles that don't need to be fought. Instead, you become adaptable, resilient, free. So I ask you, what would happen if you stopped trying to control everything? What if, instead of resisting change, you embraced it? What if, instead of fearing uncertainty, you learned to dance with it? What if, instead of gripping tightly to the way you think things should be, you trusted that exactly where you are is exactly where you are meant to be? Because maybe, just maybe, the life you are fighting so hard to create is already waiting for you, if only you would stop resisting and let it unfold. The ego's greatest trick, why letting go of identity sets you free. We define ourselves by labels, by stories, by the identities we build over time. We say, I am this kind of person, I believe in this, I am successful, I am a failure. These identities become our foundation, the lens through which we see the world, the structure we cling to for a sense of security. But what if everything you believe yourself to be is nothing more than a construct? What if the identity you hold so tightly is actually a prison, keeping you from experiencing life in its fullest, most unfiltered form. The ego, that voice in your head telling you who you are, what you deserve, what you should fear, is the greatest illusion of all. And the moment you let go of it, the moment you stop needing to be someone, to prove something, to uphold a particular version of yourself, that is the moment you become truly free. From the moment we are born, we are given an identity, a name, a nationality, a set of beliefs, a culture, a history. As we grow, we continue to stack layers onto this identity, our achievements, our failures, our relationships, our traumas. We come to believe that this collection of experiences defines us, that we are the sum of our past, that our worth is tied to what we have done, what we have built, how others perceive us. But this is the ego's greatest trick. It convinces us that we are something fixed, something solid, something that must be defended at all costs. And so we spend our lives protecting this identity, reinforcing it, proving it to the world. We fear change because it threatens the version of ourselves we have constructed. We resist failure because it contradicts the narrative we want to believe about who we are. We cling to relationships, to careers, to beliefs, not because they still serve us, but because we have made them part of our identity, and to lose them feels like losing ourselves. But what if you are not your identity? What if you are something far greater, far more fluid, far more expansive? Think about the times in your life when you felt the most alive. Were they moments when you were rigidly holding on to your sense of self? Or were they moments when you dissolved into something greater? When you lose yourself in the beauty of an experience, in a deep conversation, in a creative flow, in love, in laughter? The truth is, the moments of greatest joy, of deepest peace, of purest connection, happen when the ego disappears, when we stop thinking about who we are and simply are. Letting go of identity does not mean losing yourself. It means realizing that you were never a fixed thing to begin with. It means understanding that you are not your achievements, your failures, your beliefs, or your past. You are something much more profound, something that cannot be contained within words or labels or definitions. And when you stop clinging to an identity, suddenly you become limitless. You can change. You can evolve. You can move freely through life without the weight of needing to be something specific. You stop fearing failure because failure no longer defines you. You stop resisting change because you are no longer attached to a single version of yourself. But here's where it gets even more powerful. When you let go of identity, you also let go of suffering. Because think about it, what causes most of our pain? It's not reality itself, but our attachment to a specific version of reality. We suffer not because things change, but because we believe they shouldn't. We suffer not because we lose something, but because we believe we need it to be who we are. But what if you could move through life without that attachment? What if you could experience everything fully, but without clinging, without needing to define it, without letting it define you? That is real freedom. That is real power. So I ask you, who would you be if you let go of who you think you are? What would your life look like if you stopped needing to prove something, to uphold something, to cling to a particular identity? What if, instead of being someone, you were simply being? Because maybe, just maybe, everything you are searching for is already within you, if only you would stop trying to be and start allowing yourself to exist. The final liberation, why losing everything, is the key to having it all. What if everything you are afraid of losing, your success, your relationships, your reputation, your sense of self, was never truly yours to begin with? What if the very act of holding on to these things is what keeps you trapped, anxious, restless? We spend our lives accumulating titles, possessions, experiences, identities, believing that the more we have, the more complete we become. But what if the opposite is true? What if true freedom, true peace, True power comes not from gaining, but from losing. Not from holding on, but from letting go. What if everything you think you need is actually the very thing keeping you from realizing that you already have everything? There comes a point in life when we are forced to face loss in its rawest form. A breakup, a financial collapse, a betrayal, a complete dismantling of everything we thought was certain. In these moments, when everything we clung to is ripped away, we experience something terrifying yet profound emptiness. And this emptiness is what most people fear above all else. We try to fill it with distractions, with new goals, with anything that will make us feel like we are still in control. But what if, instead of running from the emptiness, we stepped into it? What if we allowed ourselves to lose everything, not in the physical sense, but in the sense of no longer needing anything to define us, to complete us, to validate us? Because here's the paradox: when you lose everything, you realize that you were never lacking to begin with. The desperation to achieve, to prove, to control it all dissolves. You stop chasing because you realize there was never anything to chase. You stop fearing loss because you understand that nothing was ever truly yours. You stop trying to be someone because you see that there was never a fixed you to begin with, and in that moment of surrender, something incredible happens. You become untouchable. You become free. Think about the moments in your life when you felt the most at peace. Were they moments of accumulation, of force, of striving? Or were they moments of release, of deep exhalation, of surrender, of realizing that you don't have to hold everything together? The greatest masters, the wisest teachers, the most enlightened individuals have all reached the same conclusion: when you stop needing, you start receiving. When you stop gripping, life starts flowing. When you stop defining yourself by external things, you become something infinitely greater. But this is not an easy path. It requires a death, not a physical one, but a death of attachment, of ego, of the false belief that your worth is tied to what you have, what you do, what others think of you. It requires the courage to step into the unknown, to trust that even when everything falls away, you will still be here. And once you experience this, once you taste what it's like to exist without clinging, without fear, without the desperate need to control, you will never go back. Because you will realize that you don't need to chase life. Life is already here. You don't need to fight for freedom. You already are free. You don't need to hold on. The entire universe is holding you. So I ask you, what would happen if you let go completely? If you stopped fearing loss and started embracing it? If you saw every ending as a beginning, every failure as a doorway, every moment as enough, exactly as it is? Because maybe, just maybe, the secret to having everything is realizing you never needed it in the first place.